Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Zinespiration. Things look a little different here today, don't they? That's because we have a special guest host, Ali from War Glitter Zines. We don't know where Craig is. We can't find him, but hopefully he comes back soon because we miss him. Joining us is the amazingly talented Miles. You know them on Instagram as Spacehoe.art. Welcome, Miles.
Hello. Thank you.
Thanks for coming today. We're glad to
Yeah,
have
no
you
problem. Thanks
here.
for having me.
So what got you into zines?
Oh gosh, I think I started when I was like in tweens or teens. I was writing a lot, like short stories and like trying to write books because like that was like writing was like my obsession. And I would go to like the library and get like books about like how to get published when you're still a teenager and that kind of thing. And I think like a lot of those books started talking about like zines and that kind of thing. Just a lot of like independent, like cool art stuff you could do. And I didn't ever end up making zines like at that time. I was still like, I'm gonna write a book, or I'm gonna like just write short stories, and didn't really. I don't know. It's like a compulsive journaler and writer, but I didn't really end up going anywhere with it. And I think I didn't. The first time I made a zine was like a few years ago. Um, I thought about it like I'm like I'm gonna make a zine, but I never did. And then I made like this was like just like a really shitty like it's a construction paper about like motivation because I was like dealing with a lot of depression at the time, and it's just like line paper on like construction paper and like stuff glued into it about how I didn't have any motivation to do anything. And I don't even know how long ago I made that. There's no date on it. I'm guessing probably like 2011 maybe. The first thing I did was probably a couple years ago. I started just doing like little, um, they're like black construction paper, typing paper with gel pens. So I
That's
had a friend who was doing like art and drawing with black paper on gel pens, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that looks awesome.
And I was really impressed with this, and I was like, "That's really cool." And that was kind of when like I caught the bug, and I'm like, "I'm gonna keep doing this because it's like something I can finish." Like with my depression, it's really hard to like I start a bunch of things, but like planning long term projects and things that I can actually get done is like, you know. So it was
Mhm.
like a few pages, and I was done. Or like with my sketchbooks and stuff, it's like I start it, and then like a year later, 2 years later, I'd be like, I finished a sketchbook.
Yeah.
And then like the first one I did that I was able to reproduce is like this one. It was cotton candy, and I have this one on my online one, and it's a erotic short, and it's just a little kind of creepy, kind of romantic poem. And I did like I made stamps, I did the art for it, and I was like, this was really cool because it was like I had the vision for it in my head, and I was able to get it down to do what I wanted to do, and I was able to get it kind of reproduced, and I made like the little poster on the inside. This isn't the one with the poster because this is the original, but the poster was of the art in the back.
So when did you start distributing them? Were you mostly trading? Did you open a store right away?
I did not. I haven't actually done. I've just kind of like been giving copies to friends. I had one of my many, many, many online stores that I've kind of gone through different versions of. I think I was listing them for a while. I have a Depop now, which I'm gonna start listing them on again. But yeah, I went to my first Zine Fest last year, I think, in Omaha. So I was like, I didn't even know like there were places close by that are actually starting to do this,
Mhm.
and so that was pretty cool. And I did a couple of trades there, bought a lot of stuff, and that was super fun.
for anyone who's never seen your work before. What sort of themes and ideas can they see in your zines?
Yeah, what's your aesthetic?
My aesthetic, I do a lot of like, I like doing art zines a lot because I can just like start drawing and like I'll make the book and I'll just do the drawings in them. And I do a lot of the ones like this where I will use the color paper and
Mhm.
just kind of draw. Like, I'm getting back to the cotton candy one was one I liked because I was able to do the writing for it. Uh, Even though I wrote, like I used to write a lot, I have a thing where I don't really like my own writing that much. So like I don't write for my zines as much. I'm getting to the point where I can kind of start doing that again. Like I'll write like little things that are poems, but it's only like, a couple of sentences to just kind of round out the art part. Yeah, most of the ones I have done now are art. I do a lot of this one I really liked that was just a study with I cut up a bunch of foam stamps and I made like just different art, and I do a lot of in my regular drawing I do like pseudo scripting, so you can see it's like it looks like writing, but it's not actually writing, and that kind of helps me with it looks like a real book and not having to worry about putting my own writing in it because I don't like it.
That's really sneaky. I love that.
Yeah, and I really like the aesthetic of that too, because like it has like it feels cryptic, it feels kind of mysterious, and
yeah,
yeah.
I dig it.
Was there any particular artist that kind of inspired you to do that, or did you develop it on your own?
I mostly developed that on my own. I would kind of do it when I was like doodling and drawing, and then like my partner is into like a lot of that kind of thing, and he would show me like these old things like manuscripts that people would find, and they'd be like, "Is this a different language?" Or like, people would spend years and years trying to translate it, and it's like, no, it's just gibberish. Or I think there were a couple that were in fact like ancient languages, and I like that because like I have my aesthetic thing is a lot of like alien, otherworldly kind of thing. So I think that fits into it where it's like, I did this drawing that was, I have on my website. It was, we left our sacred text on a time capsule on an unnamed moon. And so that's kind of like for all of my weird cryptic alien type of thing. It's like, that's kind of like the inspiration for it. Like this was another one of the sacred text. And I'm like, I want it to be kind of like maybe it's a religious alien thing, maybe it's, educational, like who knows? Maybe someday someone will figure it out. And that's kind of
position that's there, because you've got like in that other zine you were showing, you've got some really like old fashioned style like scripture to your penmanship, and then the futuristic appeal of it. It's this like you take the magnets the wrong way and put them together, and what you get, I think, is really cool.
Yeah, and I think that's like I start doing like when I just kind of like cut out stamps, and I'm like I can just kind of build up on it and not have to be like constantly planning things, because that's where I get kind of, like I'll get like obsessive about things where it's like everything has to be perfect. So it's like just start with the pieces and build it up kind of. And so yeah, that's what I've been mostly doing for my art zines. I started doing some more personal stuff, just kind of exploring it. Like I think this was the last one I finished, was just it was no sleep, where like I was starting to have a lot of insomnia, and like as someone who has a lot of depression, like the idea of not sleeping all the time was like really weird for me. So I'm like, yeah, this is a very strange time of my life because I don't even know what this means. Like, and so I had like, it was a little, just some drawings of like what I was doing when I was just like hanging out like 6 o'clock in the morning, not being asleep. And I'm like, this is so weird. I'm like, I know I'm going to just kind of crash eventually, but for that moment, it's like, this is a really strange feeling.
I love that zines are there and available for mental health topics, because so many people write mental health zines, and I love the first person perspective of it.
Yeah.
And I find that because I get a lot of zines sent to me, when I read mental health zines, I feel I get a better understanding of what's going on than when you hear about issues in the news and stuff like that. Because, when it's being told to us, it's like we're being talked down to about how to feel and how people are feeling, but when
Yeah.
you read someone's zine about it, it's just like, okay, like I don't get it, but I'm getting an idea of what you're
Yeah.
going.
It's not as like pathologized where you're like, this is me trying to live my life with XYZ, as opposed to, when a person is depressed, they have, that doesn't really sound very, relatable.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear from the perspective of somebody who doesn't have it all figured out yet, and so part of making it is exploring that instead of purely to inform. Um, and I think that that's one of the reasons why zines are such a incredible medium is because it's open to anybody to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of when I started reading about zines, it was more like fanzines made zines about stuff you like, and I'm just like, so I don't really like stuff, so I'm not really sure what I'm going to do here. Like, I like some things, but like not like passionately enough that I'm like, I'm gonna start making things about it, you know?
You bring up a great point about like the mini zine and kind of writing to the space you have, because one of my favorite things about zines is the constriction that it puts on me to get my point across in such a limited amount of space, and to pick and choose my words carefully and to get the point across.
Yeah, and I started like right before I kind of stopped writing. I was doing more poetry. I was starting kind of to do like experimental stuff. So I'm like, how many how many words can I just like take out of this and
Yeah.
still get my point across? And I think that helps. That's kind of what I do when I write for zines. Is just like the least amount of words that I need. But
I think that's what brings us all together, right? As zine creators, like we're doing this because we don't like the normal way of publishing.
yeah, like you can't like there are certain places you can't like approach them with ideas and be like, hey, I had this idea, and they'll be like, no, thank you.
That's not going to sell.
Yeah,
Who do you think is
settling
going
doesn't
to
want.
read this?
Do you know Crash Reynolds, Miles?
Yes, I did a zine trade with them earlier. I think last year. It might have already been a year ago.
Oh wow. You should do like an alien robot collaboration.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Miles, for joining us on Zinespiration. For anyone who hasn't seen their stuff before, the Instagram link is going to be down below, and check their stuff out because it is pretty awesome.
Cool. Thank you for having me. It was
Thanks
fun.
for coming on.
Thanks, Miles.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
That